Hey, I'm doing a test real quick. Are you guys in? I see you on the left as guest, but not co-host. So I just clicked where I hit invite you as speaker. So make sure that if you just signed up for everything, then go out of it and then start all over with the link that I sent you. And that way it should give you either the choice co-host or like guest. There you go. There you guys go. You got it. Good deal. Not yet. Not yet. It's only 7:59. Give Scott a chance to get in too, guys.
What's going on, Betty? The crap is erratic again. Problems very erratic. Betty, talk to me. Betty, are you there? Teddy? Teddy? A plane just what? It's 737? What? Like the World Trade Center. Who are you talking to? Oh, God. Oh, my God.
United 175, New York. We have some problems over here right now. We might have a hijack over here, two of them. Jules, this is Ryan. Listen, on an airplane that's been hijacked. If things don't go well, and it's not looking good, I just want you to know I absolutely love you. I want you to do good. So have a good time. Same to my parents and everybody. And I just totally love you, and I will see you later. Bye, Dave.
What are those people going to do? All the elevators are blocked out.
Oh my God. So both towers are now.
Okay, I got an aircraft 6 miles east of the White House.
Hello?
Crystal City, just north of Crystal City. Just to the north of your tower.
Yeah, stop all departures. Pentagon just got hit. Don't put me in that. God damn, I can't even protect my NCA. United 93, that traffic for you is 1 o'clock, 12 miles eastbound 370. Negative contact, we're looking United 93. United 93, Cleveland, if you hear the center right then. I got that business, huh? Keep remaining steady. You have the ball board.
Tuesday, 9:47 a.m. Hi, baby. Baby, you have to listen to me carefully. I'm on a plane that's been hijacked. I'm on the plane. I'm calling from the plane. I want to tell you I love you. Please tell my children that I love them very much. And I'm so sorry, babe. I hope to be able to see your face again, baby. I love you. Bye.
We're 56865. We have, I believe it is a Boeing 757. Can you see him up there, sir?
That's confirmed. It looks like he's rocking his wings.
Roger.
He's rocking back and forth.
We're 56865. I advise you stay away from that aircraft. Go north as fast as you can.
United 93, have you got information on that yet?
Yeah, he's down.
He's down?
Yes.
When did he land?
He did not land.
Oh, he's down?
Yeah,
Down?
somewhere up northeast of Camp David.
Sean, it's me. I just want to let you know I love you, and I'm stuck in this building in New York. There's lots of smoke, and I just wanted you to know that I love you always.
At number 2 World Trade Center, right. 30 was students in this office. They're not ready to die, but it's getting bad.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices, secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads, friends and neighbors. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror. The pictures of airplanes flying into buildings, fires burning, huge structures collapsing, have filled us with disbelief, terrible sadness, and a quiet, unyielding anger. These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat. But they have failed. Our country is strong. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. These acts shattered steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve. America was targeted for attack because we're the brightest beacon for freedom and opportunity in the world, and no one will keep that light from shining. Today, our nation saw evil, the very worst of human nature, and we responded with the best of America, with the daring of our rescue workers, with the caring for strangers and neighbors who came to give blood and help in any way they could. Immediately following the first attack, I implemented our government's emergency response plans. Our military is powerful, and it's prepared. Our emergency teams are working in New York City and Washington, D.C. to help with local rescue efforts. Our first priority is to get help to those who have been injured and to take every precaution to protect our citizens at home and around the world from further attacks. The functions of our government continue without interruption. Federal agencies in Washington, which had to be evacuated today, are reopening for essential personnel tonight and will be open for business tomorrow. Our financial institutions remain strong, and the American economy will be open for business as well. The search is underway for those who are behind these evil acts. I've directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice. We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them. I appreciate so very much the members of Congress who have joined me in strongly condemning these attacks. And on behalf of the American people, I thank the many world leaders who have called to offer their condolences and assistance. America and our friends and allies join with all those who want peace and security in the world, and we stand together to win the war against terrorism. Tonight I ask for your prayers for all those who grieve, for the children whose worlds have been shattered, for all whose sense of safety and security has been threatened. And I pray they will be comforted by a power greater than any of us, spoken through the ages in Psalm 23. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. This is a day when all Americans from every walk of life unite in our resolve for justice and peace. America has stood down enemies before, and we will do so this time. None of us will ever forget this day, yet we go forward to defend freedom and all that is good and just in our world. Thank you. Good night, and God bless America.
This is a special episode. Sorry, this is a special episode. I'm glad that you can all join us tonight. I'd like to read a prayer that I wrote, if I can get through. We come before you today with heavy hearts, seeking solace and strength for the victims and families affected by the 9/11 tragedy. We ask for your comforting embrace to surround them, providing healing for their pain and an outpouring of love to ease their burden. May you grant them the courage to face each day, knowing they are not alone in their grief. Help them find moments of peace and resilience to carry on with hope and determination. We pray for the souls of those who lost their lives on that fateful day. May they find eternal rest in your loving embrace, and may their spirits continue to inspire us to strive for unity, compassion, and understanding. Guide us, dear Lord, to be sources of support and empathy for those who still carry the weight of loss. Help us to listen with open hearts, offer a comforting presence, and extend a helping hand whenever it is needed. In the face of tragedy, may we find the strength to stand united, transcending differences and embracing our shared humanity. May this solemn occasion serve as a reminder of the preciousness of life and the value of cherishing one another. We offer this prayer with humility and reverence, knowing that you are the source of comfort and healing. May your grace be abundant upon the victims and families of 9/11, now and forevermore. And Lord, my Savior, we pray. Amen. Let's take a moment of silence to say our own prayers. Tonight, on a very special episode, we gathered together for an important conversation that resonates deeply within our hearts. Join us as we dive into the tragic events of 9/11 and explore their profound impact on our lives, our nation, and our world. In this thought-provoking discussion, I am joined by an incredible lineup of fellow podcasters and friends, from Scott from Beyond the Shadows, Kevin from When the Weird Ones Are, Vicky from Mrs. Spooky Obsessed, Amanda, my friend, from What Nothing, and my dear friend Stacy. I'm so sorry, I'm trying to get through this. Together, we will share our personal experiences and reflections, recounting where we were when the world changed forever. With honesty and vulnerability, we will explore the ripple effects of that fateful day, discussing how it shaped our perspectives, deepened our empathy, and inspired our pursuit of truth. As we gather, we aim to honor the lives lost, the heroes who emerged, and the resilience of our nation. This is not just a discussion about history. It is an opportunity to remember, reflect, and pay tribute to the enduring spirit of unity that emerged from the ashes of tragedy. Moreover, we will address the challenging topic of conspiracy theories surrounding 9/11 with respect and critical thinking. We will navigate this sensitive arena, examining different viewpoints and seeking to separate fact from fiction. This episode is a testament to the power of conversation, fostering understanding, and fostering a sense of connection. I invite you to join all of us on this journey of remembrance and introspection as we honor the past, examine the present, and envision a future built on compassion, resilience, and unity. And thank you all for joining to be a part of this profound discussion as we remember 9/11 together. So, what we're going to do is first I'll introduce my wonderful group of guests that are here. And then we will do a roundtable discussion where each of us will have the floor, and we will first go through where we were. We'll do that question first, and then the second question will be the impact that it had on us. And then the next question will be the impact it has on the world, our country. And so first, let me welcome Kevin from Where the Weird Ones Are. Kevin, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine.
Perfect. I was
Awesome.
afraid you wouldn't be able to because I'm on the phone this time.
No, you sound loud and clear. So awesome. I'm glad everything is working. And Amanda from One Nothing Podcast, say hello.
Hi, everybody. It's good to be here.
Awesome. I'm so glad Amanda could be here. She was having, I don't know what happened, if she switched her shift or not, but it means so much that she's here. And then we have Scott with Beyond the Shadows podcast. Scott, can you hear me, my friend?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
I hear you just
All
fine,
right.
loud and
Hopefully it
clear.
doesn't sound too bad. I'm on my phone. Old man problems. I couldn't get to work. So
No worries. No worries at all. I'm glad that all of you can join. We're still waiting too on Vicky, Mrs. Spooky Obsessed, that will be here. But of course, we're going to start. And I'm going to start with Kevin because, Kevin and I were actually supposed to do a recording tonight. Him being on my podcast, I was going to do like a haunted subject with just him and I. And I thought, I don't hear as much of 9/11 as I think should be. And I think, we're all from different walks of life, different places in the US. And I think it would just do well for, even if any victims and their families at all are listening to any shows tonight or coming up, if they happen to come across this, that we are thinking of them and we do remember, because we remember where we were and what we were doing. And so I'm going to give the floor to Kevin. So Kevin, on that day, tell us where you were, as detailed as you can about where you were when it happened and you first saw it, what your reaction was to it, and just the general concept of 9/11, the tragedy itself.
Yeah, of course. First, if you don't mind, well, first of all, thanks for having me. I always love talking to you. But if you don't mind, I would like to read kind of sort of a quick poem that is actually the end of a song. Some people might know it, but I'll just read it. You never know the words you should have said until they're all you're left with, until the dirt is falling and the guilt, it burns your bones. And we ask the biggest question, why the fuck did this all happen? Who on earth deserves this, and what the hell do we do now? So we live like we have lost, and we love like we are broken. And as the color leaves the sky, we're left in reverence of the frailty of it all. I connect with that a lot. It's been something that I connect with the passing of my uncle a few years ago. So just life is so fleeting, and you never know when loved ones are going to be gone. So embrace them now when they're in your presence and not later, because things like this happen far too often. But as far as where I was actually in 7th grade. I was 12. How the hell old was I in 7th grade? I don't know. It was 7th grade. But I remember them calling it over the intercom that a plane had struck the first building of the World Trade Center. And then it kind of like sent the whole school in a panic. And for some reason, kids thought planes were going to start coming in, like hitting our school. It was frightening, actually. That the panic that it set in the school. I honestly feel like our school probably did a terrible job at it, and my science teacher pulled in the old box TV. And actually showed the news broadcast. And I remember, which was really bizarre, this woman reporting on that the second building had been struck. And it hadn't been struck yet. And I remember this very vividly. And I actually started asking questions, and people started telling me that I was insensitive and things of this. So I just shut up. But they ended up having the buses take us home early to be with our families. Of course, being middle class or whatever, our parents didn't have the luxury of coming home to console us or have to talk about whatever feelings we have on this occasion. So I went home early, and then I was home alone for the entire day watching this happen on TV, and just being like, this is crazy. And then having these emotions of wishing I was older so I could do something about it. Unfortunately, I never got that chance. Wasn't the best person growing up, so I ended up with a record, so none of the military branches would accept my waivers. But I desperately wanted to get into the military and, do my thing. I thought I would probably be that would be my purpose, was to liberate and help secure freedom for not only our nation but others as well. And then yeah, so that's where I was, the 7th grade, just a 7th grade kid, pimples on my face, cracking voice, and afraid of what was going to happen next.
I was going to ask you, but like I said, I'm giving everybody their time and no one's saying a word because I think that's very important. But let me ask you, when you were sitting at home and it was just you and, your parents were there, what thoughts were running through your mind? Like, were you thinking someone's going to invade your home? What were some of the things running through your mind?
Well, I wasn't afraid that anybody was gonna, invade the house or anything. What I thought was there was gonna be a all-out war on our soil, and I wanted to be able to do something about it, and I think that's what had one of the main things that connects me to being, physical with in my life, like being active and trying to be fit, I guess, and just so that I can I'd be able to confront these problems. I remember just sitting there thinking, like, I need to do something about this. Like, I don't think I ever felt fear, but I felt afraid of. I guess I did. If I'm saying I felt afraid, but I did feel like I'm not sure what's going to happen after this. Where is this going to go? What is this going to lead to? What problems is it gonna look like in the future? And I don't know, for a child, I feel like that's a lot to think about.
Oh, I agree 100% for sure. Does anyone in our roundtable want to ask Kevin any questions?
Kevin, how did you feel when you wanted to join the military, you wanted to defend a country that you obviously love, and they wouldn't allow you just because of some ridiculous mistake?
I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty pissed off. I firstly tried to join the army, and they denied the waiver. And then I was like, well, the National Guard needs people because people don't like to join the National Guard. Apparently, a lot of people love to join the National Guard. So they wouldn't accept me either. They wouldn't accept the waiver. And I was like, you know who's not going to deny me? The Marines aren't going to deny me. Never would they ever. And lo and behold, they did. I feel like I would have thrived in the military, to be honest. But I never, unfortunately, I never got that chance. But yeah, it pissed me off because 9/11 was 2001. By the time I was supposed to graduate high school, so the year that I became an adult was the end of 2006. So I was trying to join in the spring of 2007. So yeah, and we were still over there doing the thing. I don't even think Bin Laden had been found by 2007 as of yet at that time either. So yeah, I was angry for sure.
I don't blame you. And yeah, I think Bin Laden, I believe it was in Barack's presidency, which wasn't he president first in 2008?
Yeah,
And
he became president in 2008.
Yeah, okay. All right. So I figured that. Well, thank you for sharing your story, Kevin, because you were definitely, younger, I think almost the same age as me. So, like I said, it's good to get, to see where everyone was in our ages because we're all different, So, how about Scott from Beyond the Shadows? Tell us where you were when the news hit and just your thoughts, your feelings, and we're, of course, giving you the whole floor.
Well, when it happened, when you told me about asked me to come on the show, I started thinking back, trying to remember exactly where I was and what was going on at the time. And it's funny how they say people's memories are completely unreliable, because I remember thinking back. I remember I was watching the television. I had just come home from work, but in my head, I was still in the military. I remember myself wearing my uniform. I remember wearing my BDUs. But then remembering the dates, I did the math, and I was already out of the service. So my memory wasn't, you can't trust your memory. But I do recall that I came home. I've been working night shift for years, and I'd come home and I turned on the television. And when I turned on the television, I think it was like Good Morning America or something like that. And when I turned it on, I saw they showed the building, and it was, the first tower, and it was just smoking. And then I was just in awe trying to figure out what had happened. And they were broadcasting live right, from downtown New York. And while they're broadcasting, you can see the second plane come in. You literally could see it come in and crash into the second tower. And it would just floored me. I had actually been in the military just before this. I served I did a couple tours in the Air Force. And like I said, when I went through similar to this before this, I was our base where we stayed over in Saudi Arabia. One of the buildings there was bombed by the same people that did 9/11, and they blew up a lot of the people that I was stationed with at the time. I was supposed to be there, but I actually someone else had taken my place to go over because I just had a baby. Well, my wife had a baby, but so we went through that, and then soon after that, I was moving from one base to another, and I rented a Ryder truck. And the same day I rented the Ryder truck was the same day that Timothy McVeigh blew up the Oklahoma City, that building. So I had to talk to the FBI about that. And I had to fill out a bunch of paperwork and go through a bunch of stuff of where I was, what routes I had taken and everything. So this was like the third round of something like this for me, but I was still absolutely awestruck. I was actually a little worried. Yeah, he was talking about, joining the military. I had just gotten out, and I was wondering if they were going to make me come back in. I thought we were at a, full out war at this time. And I was living in Omaha, Nebraska at the time. And in the flight path of Offutt Air Force Base, we saw a plane coming in there, and it was coming in low and it was coming in landing, but it was actually the president. Because after this happened, they relocated him because the base where we had in Omaha is the Strategic Air Command. So they relocated the president there. There's a building that's, all secure and everything, and they moved him to that building. So that was another, part of it that scared us to death because we thought planes were coming in after us after that. So it changed everything after that. You look on everything,
Well, as everyone has said in the chat, and I'll say again, thank you for your service, Scott. Especially in war times like what you had just mentioned that you were a part of, losing your comrades, your brothers, and there's some people that lose brothers and sisters, but we all don't know that side that aren't in the military. So, we can we of course want to say that we know, how bad it is. I mean, my husband's a veteran. So, I know a little bit about it. He signed up at a time of war. I think he signed up in like 06. But, just people that were in it, like you, the fact that you were like a little hesitant, that you might be called upon, that is scary to think, oh my gosh, look what I've already been through. And now, is this the last time that I'm going to do something like this? And I came back all these other times. Did you have that feeling that if you were to go, that I'm not trying to be like morbid in that sense. I'm just kind of digging for where, your gut and your brain were and your heart were. Where were those three at that time?
Yeah, no, I was really floored at first because, nobody knew who was on the plane. Nobody knew what had happened. You just literally saw this. You heard about the third plane going down into the Pentagon. And then there was the fourth one that crashed into the people took down. And, it just really threw me for a loop. I was nervous mostly because I had little kids at the time, and to think that I'd just done 2 enlistments. And yeah, I was worried about having to go back. I would have, it's not, and a lot of this didn't happen to me. It just happened around me. So I'm no hero, but, it definitely changed my outlook. I was definitely worried for sure.
Well, we definitely thank you for telling us where you were, and we're going to get back to you about how it affected and impacted your life. So start thinking about that for when we come around the table again. But the way that you explained everything, is definitely detail enough that we get to know where your head was at. So thank you for sharing, Scott. We do appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And then we have joining us, Vicky from Mrs. Spooky Obsessed podcast. She is one of my dear friends and fellow podcasters. And Vicky, what we're doing is the first question is just, where were you when this, when 9/11 first happened and things were going on the news and reports, and what were your original, like your first thoughts? And then we're going to do everybody first with the first question and then circle back around the second and third question. So just for this question, just let us know where you were and what your first thoughts were at that time.
Sarah, oh my God, Farrah, I'm sorry, I'm tired. Thank you for that introduction. And I think my first intro to the whole 9/11, it happened during the time I was in school. I was, 2001? I was 8, 9 years old, maybe 3rd grade. I remember one day my history teacher just came in riled up, like in this sort of frenzy, and it kind of freaked, our classmates, like we kind of freaked out because he was really kind of out of it. And he's like, guys, you need to watch this. I'm going to put the TV on. And for us, that was exciting. We were like, oh my God, like TV, yay. Because we never got to watch anything on that little weird box that they had at that time. But no, he didn't explain before putting it on. He explained during. And he's like, guys, you need to watch this because we are being attacked. and this is going to be part of our history from now on forever, for as long as we live. And what do we know? We were little. I mean, I don't think we really truly understood the concept yet at that time. And so we were just like all watching that little small screen, how like you just see these planes crashing into the buildings. And so my teacher was like, look at this is the Twin Towers, this is what helps define America. And he went on with this entire history lesson, and he was just sitting there watching. I think the next thing the guy needed was just a cigarette on the side. He was just like zoned into the TV, like he couldn't believe what was happening. And I don't think I got to give in much thought at first, because like I said, I was small. Over the years that it became like a yearly annual thing for us to celebrate or commemorate for the fallen ones, I think it was around high school. I want to say 2008, that's when I really started to give in some sort of consideration about this 9/11 attack. How people were saying we're at war, and it was Bush's Jr.'s fault. There's a conspiracy. He's the one behind this. We got attacked because of him. It's his fault. He was in on it. There's something going on that they don't want to tell us, and I don't know what it is, but it's a secret. And so he had to kill out. He was the one that killed our American people, not these guys in the planes. And so I think few years afterwards, people, I think, started claiming that we were in the holy wars because of what happened in 9/11. I mean, I didn't even know that was a term, like holy wars, I guess. But it did scare me a little, because I was like, we're at war. Like I didn't even know, because we're here on our side of the world, like nothing is happening until you see newscasters on TV like, oh, this and that. They're being attacked. These were the guys that attacked us. These are suicide bombers. That's the reason why we got hit in 9/11, because these guys, they're already committing themselves to God. And I don't know, this whole wild sayings over the TV. And so, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to sound rude or anything, because I'm not. I really do feel bad, and I do apologize for those that have been, like, their families have been affected by 9/11. I mean, I do know over the years there have been, people on TV, they talk about, like, my husband was in that building, my daughter was working in that building, my family, my kids were in the surrounding areas when this building was crashing on top of them. And it still affects them to this very day. It crushes them deeply, how they're like, this shouldn't have happened, this shouldn't have happened. They're just repeating themselves over and over. And I think within my experience and working in 2 different banks, every time I got introduced to the job, 9/11 happens to be that one main subject of explaining to us, okay, we do this in order to help the members with their identity and whatnot, because of 9/11, because of the terrorist attack. So I know, for me, like I said, although personally I was not affected, but it has affected job-wise for me, in a way that we do things with the banks because of what happened at 9/11. End of that's the end of.
Thank you, Vicky. And before I forget, was there anyone that wants to ask Scott any questions, or Vicky any questions? So that way, I forgot, Scott, I'm so sorry. I was breaking down and everything at the beginning, so I'm trying to collect myself back up.
Oh, no worries.
But yes,
No worries at all.
if anyone have any questions for Scott or Vicky, please say them now. If not, we'll just move on, but I'll give you like a few seconds. Okay, so we'll move on. So let's see. So Stacy is one of my good friends, and she is probably the best supporter for podcasters in the United States of America and all across every continent, every city, town, uh, remote island, it does not matter. She is someone that, me, Amanda, Vicky, Samantha, Tracy, Kevin. I mean, just can't say enough about Stacy. So she is a friend, and I want to hear her side of everything. So, Stacy, the floor is yours. Just go into where you were, your first thoughts, and then we'll give you the floor. Go ahead.
Wow, Farah, thank you so much. I can't even begin to tell you um, how good it feels to be here with you guys. So a little different. I actually had just graduated from college. I was doing my internship with Los Angeles County. Um, I had recently obtained my master's in psychology, and so it was time to put that to work. And I could hear television, and I thought, how strange! Here we're in our office, and so I went into the break room where it was, and I noticed that there was just this complete smoke, and just I didn't understand. So I called my mom, and I said, "Mom, what's going on?" I said, "There's been a plane accident. A plane has hit the World Trade Center." And just as I got that out, the second plane hit. And my mom said, "Oh, fuck. This is not an accident. This is purposeful." She said, "You get out of LA. You get out of there now." And I'm like, I can't. I absolutely can't, Mom. I'm so sorry. So I stayed on the phone with her. And it just spiraled from that to the Pentagon. And we didn't actually hear about the heroes that had taken the plane down for a few days. But I remember standing there with my mom on the phone, crying and watching the people just rain out of the building. And And I just remember thinking, like, please let them not know what's happening. Let them be gone before they realize how far they're falling. And as soon as I got off the phone with my mom, um, I just I hugged coworkers. We had uh, group home and foster parents and families in the building. We did our best to shield them, but uh, it was just so hard because there was nothing we could do. And then rumors started going around in LA that we were next. They were targeting us. Los Angeles was next, every big city. And just my mom calling me and telling me, "You need to come home. I want you home." And it was hard.
Thank you, Stacey. And like I said, that's why I wanted to do this, because just like you said, your story was a little different. I think it's so great to hear everyone's different story, because each of us have a different feeling even today. I mean, we don't all feel the same, except for, yes, the empathy, the sympathy. But, I just think that talking about it, and it should be talked about more, is very, very important. So thank you for sharing your story. And does anyone want to ask Stacy any questions? And you know what, Stacy, I was going to ask you, that's weird that you said that your mom was like, get out of there now, because I always thought that if anything would happen to our nation, like a terrorist attack, that it would be like New York, Miami, LA, California, Chicago, like it'd be all of them, not just New York City. But, were they doing anything different with the planes there at that time? Like, didn't they ground everything like right away?
Yes. So
Okay.
immediately, all of our newscasts in LA started coming out that if you were in LAX and you had a flight that you were leaving on, you weren't going anywhere. There were people who were stranded in LAX who weren't from California because their planes weren't going out. Even our major highways, the 10, the 5, they were shut down to where only little bits of traffic at a time could go through.
Right, because you couldn't overcrowd. I mean, the one thing I always think of is, whenever a disaster is happening, I feel like a lot of us don't know how to act. And like, you have those people that their first instinct is to go in and like, bumper to bumper the roads, like, make a big traffic jam so we all can't get out and then we're screwed. You know what I mean? So it's like, I always wish that our government would make better, I don't know how you want to say it, but better plans that, for each state, for if any type of catastrophe or anything would happen, what can we do to make us all feel better and give us a chance, of living. But Amanda, I know that you said that you weren't in the US much at that time, but can you tell us like where you were and what you did hear of it, and then what you thought the first time you did hear of it?
Do you mean me, Amanda, or Frankie, Amanda?
You, Amanda.
Oh, okay. So sorry. So I actually was here for 9/11. I had been here like 2 weeks. Like I just moved. And it was really surreal because we don't have terrorism in Canada to the degree that America seems to. Um, just historically, that was never a thing in Canada. We never worried about, terrorism or being attacked by other countries or, anyway. But I was in, I think, 5th or 6th grade, and sorry, I can't read and talk at the same time because I'm looking at the comments. Sorry. I was in like 5th or 6th grade, and I just remember we were moving from one class to the next, and all the students were kind of in a bustle. The teachers were really freaked out. I remember noticing their behavior was strange, and our teacher went over to we had like TVs up in the corner of all of our rooms, like little just box TVs, and she turned it on, and it was the same video that everyone else recalls, of the first tower on fire. And our parents, my sister and I went to different schools, so my mom actually came and picked me up because it was obviously for someone who's been in this country for like a second, it's very scary. And so she came and picked me up, and then picked up my sister from elementary school. And we stopped real quick at a grocery store, and it's the store called Mark's, and they've all had these TVs above every single cash register. And every TV, they're normally different channels, but every TV was airing the same thing, and it was all the second tower as the second tower was going down. So we went home immediately. we heard on the news that there was like a no-fly order, and that all the planes had to land, and that no one was allowed to be in the sky. And like 15 minutes went by. My mom and my sister and I are just kind of huddled in our living room that we just moved into, kind of freaked, obviously freaked out, and we hear a plane. And so we all start panicking because we thought that meant that, we're kind of in the middle of like bumfuck nowhere. Sorry for lack of a better term. We're not in any populated area. We're like in the middle of Ohio. So not realistic that we would be attacked in where we were, but it was just very surreal because we thought we were going to be attacked, and we didn't know anything about how to act in that kind of scenario. It was all of a sudden we were thrust into this super patriotic, and it wasn't like that. The first 2 weeks, everything was really mute. And then 9/11 happened, and all of a sudden it was like, we had to be careful saying sometimes that we just moved here, and like people that weren't American were getting side eye regardless of their ethnicity. And it was just a very bizarre time as a child to observe. So I know I don't have much room to say because I'm not a citizen. I wasn't a citizen for that. So I don't have the same visceral gut punch that I know a lot of Americans felt when that happened. I see it as more like, it's still devastating, don't get me wrong. But I imagine that it would feel a little bit differently if I was living in Canada and something like that had happened, because it wasn't home to me yet at that time, if that makes sense. So just a weird perspective to be in for sure.
No, definitely. And I didn't know that, that you originally lived in Canada. So let me ask you then, I'm interested to know. And of course, like you said, no pun intended, where this is an open conversation. Everyone says what they want to say because it's a free country. But when you were old enough, Amanda, to know about the subject more through in and throughout, what were your feelings as, like, I don't know how I want to put it, comparing the US to Canada? And what did you see this as, like not a we asked for it in that sense, but like, hey, this, if America wasn't like this, maybe that would have happened. Because as you mentioned, Canada hasn't experienced anything like this. So what do you think, in your just personal opinion, what do you think that might have, what were your thoughts on that, for the difference between US and Canada when you heard more and were able to learn more about it when you got older?
Yeah, so at first, because I'd been coming like on trips and stuff for weekends and vacations in the States. So before 9/11, it really didn't feel much different. It just, you were crossing a border and there was some different foods available, and that was really it. There wasn't too big of a difference among cultures. When 9/11 happened, um, I still had a lot of friends in Canada, family in Canada. America took on this weird perception, like, of, I don't know, it just felt like ever since then it's been like everyone refers to America as like trigger happy and like war happy. And because I didn't know anything about America before then, it's like it was very surreal to go from a country that felt just like Canada, and then all of a sudden I'm in a country where Canada suddenly feels very safe, and I don't feel safe anymore. So it's like a real switch. And I know that's not at the fault whatsoever of the American people and the residents and citizens of America. I know that's nobody's fault, but just as someone who's brand new in this country, it did feel alienating in a way. And it did feel, sorry, my cats are like fighting by my face. And it did feel like I had just kind of stepped into like a different dimension almost. It was really surreal, but I was also super young, and I didn't really look too much into it. And it wasn't until a couple years later that I started really doing some digging into it and finding things about it that, distressed me more than what I originally thought as a child. But yeah, I don't know a better way to answer that because it just sounds really crappy when I say it that way. But it really took on this weird, dark kind of like not safe vibe.
No, I understand. And you would be surprised, Amanda, how many people in America feel exactly the same way that you did. So what you just said is a lot of my feelings on it. It's that maybe not us, the citizens, we didn't ask for this. Our government puts us into situations that, we can't get out of or doesn't look good. So I agree 100%. on what you said. So just so you know that. Does anyone have any questions for Amanda? Okay, so I guess I am last until we go to the round table again. Let's see. So I remember I was at home. I had a work at home job and I had two little girls. Sierra was, I'm going to say 4 and Hope was 6. And I was playing on the computer. I didn't have to work that day. But if anyone remembers the internet, back in 2001 and like on the Yahoo, you would go to the Yahoo page and the news would be on the right in the blue. And I can actually see the letters WTC. I don't know if it was fire or crash or something like that, but under the Yahoo News, it was in blue letters, very small though, WTC crash or a fire happening. So I clicked on it and it explained World Trade Center on fire or bombing. So I go to the TV and I get a phone call at the same time. And my best friend at the time, Lauren, she called me as I was turning on the TV. And she's like, oh my God, have you seen the news? There's a bomb or an attack or a plane flew in the building. And I'm like, what? So I turned on, I think it's NBC, where it was Katie Couric and Matt Lauer. And I remember them sitting there at their broadcast desk with a live view of the back, behind them. And they were talking, and I could see like the fire of the first tower. And then, they were talking for a little bit. There was a guy that came on that was talking he was in the middle there by New York City, and he's describing everything to them. And then it was a producer lady that came on, and she was in downtown, and she could see it from her building. And then all of a sudden, you see this little mark on the TV going right for, you're looking at the one tower and to the left, and you see it entering. And then Matt Lauer and Katie Couric going, oh no, and everybody gasping behind the cameras, and you hear everybody, and it was just, I held my breath at that time. Because I even was like, oh my God, I just saw whatever just happened to the first tower happened to this second tower. Like I actually saw it live, and I'm crying to Lauren, and I'm saying to myself, oh my God, do I have to go get my kids? And they were in Catholic school right up the road. So I said, you know what, screw it. I got in my car and I drove up there, but they had the school on lockdown. So there's frantic mommy, trying to get her children, and they won't give frantic mommy her children. So mommy's just becoming more frantic. By this time, I had to drive back to the house because they were still on lockdown. And then I think it was like an hour or two later when the plane in Somerset, PA had hit. And I actually was selling insurance in Somerset, PA. So it was really surreal to me at that point. And that's when I dipped up to the Catholic school again, and I was banging on the doors. And by this time, they were starting to release, kids that their parents were there. And I remember, and maybe this is why I get really emotional about it, because I had two little ones. And, my first child I had at 18. And then my second daughter I had at 21. So I was a young mom. And I didn't know if something was going on that I wasn't going to see my kids again. Like, was our city going to get bombed? Was their school going to get bombed? Were we like being infiltrated and attacked, and I'm never going to see my kids again? Because when you're when you're someone with no kids, you have like this, I want to ride on a motorcycle 125 miles per hour, and I want to go bungee jumping and, go on the highest and fastest roller coaster. But when you have a kid, you settle down and you start kind of like analyzing your life, that you want to be here. You don't want to push your luck. You don't want to be a wussy, but you can't go on those 145 miles per hour motorcycle rides with no helmet. You can't, uh, when I used to not be scared of bungee jumping, now I'm sitting there, is the cord going to break? Am I going to fall? What's going to happen? Because I have kids and I don't ever want to be without my kids. I would die if something happened to my kids. And I think that's why it's a little more like emotional for me, because it was a time where I was like too young to still like to understand my purpose on earth. And I'm like, oh my God, we're all going to die. And like, what was I even here for? I didn't even do anything. I still have so much to do. So, that's how I remembered. Of course, I remember the Pentagon and everything too being done. And yeah, it was just a really traumatic time for me as a young mom. Granted, not at all traumatic like it was for, the victims' families, not saying that at all, but in my little world, in my little family, it was traumatic. And I think, there are times when I still think about that day when it's not September 11th, because of that almost close of losing something. And of course I'll get to how I feel about the subject in general in a little bit, but we're going to start going to the roundtable. And since I know, we did this late, I don't want to keep anybody, up real late. So what we're going to do is when we start going back, like Kevin, on this round, I want you to first tell me the impact that it had on you, your life from that day moving forward, and then just keep going with adding, what do you think the impact was on the US and countries that are not the US? And look at us. Like, what do you think has changed? What needs to change? What's got better? The floor is all yours, my friend.
All right. So, firstly, Canada tourism, because they had a big powerhouse right to their south. um, but no, it affected me in a way that I felt like, none of us are safe. Tomorrow is not promised. And I think that's taught me to live more today and be present more now than ever before. There's times, obviously, growing up that I lost track of that. So, I think we all do it from now and again until something strange and bizarre like this happens. It was never really a thought either, that there would be an attack quite like this. And I think what worried me the most is that the hijackers came from Canada's border, came through, which is an unprotected border here in Maine. We don't even have the only thing for the border from Canada to Maine is checkpoints on the road. There's nothing. There's just pillars out in the woods that say, "Oh, this side's Canada and this side's United States." But they came from Canada and they learned how to fly here in Portland, Maine, and went down to Boston and got onto the planes. So it was, or maybe it was Bangor. Either way, it was still Maine. And it bothered me that that they were able to get, first of all, learn how to fly from being I guess, foreigners. I don't know what the stipulations on that is. I guess it doesn't really matter, but just because you're a foreigner doesn't mean you're a terrorist. But also, I didn't really understand it back then, but I just thought it was weird. And yeah, other than that, it just trying to join the military, really. Also, Scott, thank you for your service. Something happened to my keyboard, and I'm not as tech savvy as I thought, so I wasn't able to type that. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that to you. And yeah, so I think that's all I got to say about that, if anything else.
Well, what do you think that it has done to the country?
Well, I think it has provided a way to kind of one of the many things that helps divide this country. For me, looking into a lot of things, I think when this happened, it was a distrust in government, and I was only like 14 at that time, and that's just when I started questioning everything and looking into everything. And I have thoughts and theories on it. Some of it might be out there. I mean, I don't know, but yeah, I think it was a way to get over there for resources of the many kinds that that part of the world provides, and that they weren't tapping into themselves because they did not want to disturb the earth, because the earth needs not disturbing. The more we tap into the earth, the more we are going to kill it. So
I agree with you, my friend. I agree with you. And Scott, what impact has it had on you personally, and what impact, good or bad, or good and bad, do you think it's had on the country, and just your thoughts on the border? What's going on today? Do you think that that's something that's pushing us toward a terrorist attack again? And definitely your military point of view is welcome. So I'm so glad that you're here, but you have the floor.
All right. Well, first off, I'd like to say you've all bummed me out, so I'm going to start drinking. The border, yeah, I didn't know that. Kevin, was that you who said here in Portland, Maine? I didn't know you were here in Maine. I'm also in Maine. And he was 100% correct. They came right through here, through Portland, not Bangor. They came in through Portland. They literally drove right through the next town over from here, and they stopped at the Kittery Trading Post, and that's where they bought their little cutters that they had on the plane. So, I mean, it hit really close to home for a lot of people. And as far as Canada goes, we love you, Canada. We love all you guys. We kind of think of you as that little brother up north. Most of us just think of you as another part of this country. So, but anyways, I digress. How did it affect me? At first I was really, really bitter because our response is we went into Afghanistan. Now, the people that were on those planes were from Saudi Arabia. They were all from Saudi Arabia. And we had a relationship with Saudi Arabia. I've been over there. So we were very willing to overlook the fact that these people actually came from a country that is supposed to be an ally of ours. And we went straight for another country where we had other interests. And I think that, like what he said earlier, it made a lot of people not trust the government. So, I mean, when this first happened, the response of most Americans, I mean, you couldn't go outside without seeing an American flag flying everywhere you went. The American pride was through the roof. But as time wore on and things, people started questioning a lot of this. I mean, and there's all the conspiracy theories and all that. I'm not getting into those. I don't buy a lot of them. But I do know 100% that the people who did this were not the people that we went after. And that, I think that affected the entire country because a lot of people realize that.
I agree. And that's one thing that I didn't learn, Scott, until later in life is that we were going over to Afghanistan and we had no business being over there. Those weren't even the people that we were fighting. We were going over there making a government for what? Like where are we going after the right people? So
right. I mean, we were after Al Qaeda, sure, but the people on that plane, they were from Saudi Arabia. They're Saudi nationalists. That's not questioned. That's all out there. That's 100% true. It's not a conspiracy. It's just fact. And we did nothing because we have major ties with Saudi Arabia. We have an air base there. I've been there. It's nothing special. And I'm not going to get bitter about that because after being there, I'm not a fan, but I'm not going to go into all that. But yeah, it's 100% we did not go after the people that we should have been after.
And one more question, Scott. From that time in 2001 to now, what do you think that we're worse off, or do you think that we would be able to stand true if something happened like that again? Like, what do you think about our system to fight back, our military, etc.?
As far as that goes, I don't worry about our military at all. Our military is so much more superior to than what you see out there. Just look at. I don't want to bring up a bunch of the war stuff, but I mean, if you look at what's happening with Ukraine and Russia, we could literally go through there in a weekend and end that if we needed to. But we don't do things like that. We're just funding it to, we're trying to break them that way. But as far as whether we're safe or not, I don't fear. Our military is so much far advanced than anything else in this world that I'm not scared of that at all. And I'm not afraid of a nuclear war or anything like that because it's just if that happens to one, it's everybody. So what do they call it? Mutual destruction. So, but as far as the military goes, I'm 100% confident in the military.
Do you think that we need to protect our borders more instead of protecting others?
Oh, absolutely. I don't have a problem with protecting others, but I mean, we seem to neglect what we have right here at home at the same time. I'm not anti helping other countries. I'm not against helping fund or support other countries with what they need, but we definitely neglect our own, so yeah, people can just walk right across the border like nothing. We could definitely do something to stop that, but it's all political. And for some reason, it's a political thing instead of just being, what it should be.
I agree with you 100%, Scott. Vicky, tell me how it's impacted you and how you think it impacted the country and how other countries see us.
Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine.
Okay, perfect. You may hear some wind because I'm outside. Okay, first off, I want to say to Scott, thank you for your service. I wasn't able to give you a shout out in the little chat, but there was some questions that I had that you were able to answer for me. So, okay, growing up, I never really understood the whole meaning or reason behind the 9/11 attack. It wasn't explained well enough to us. I just remember every year it would be put on TV about the whole we're commemorating. Okay, but it didn't make sense to me. Okay, so we're at this sort of war. Who are we at war with? And I used to be able to ask those questions to adults, because I thought they would know. I mean, they're the ones who's supposed to be aware and knowledgeable on stuff like this. And no one was able to really give me some sort of straight answer. Like, I don't know if it was because they were not aware of it, or they did not care for it, or they didn't want to answer some things like that to a young kid. But I remember I used to ask, like, who were the ones that attack us, because I know that for anyone that has a specific feature, foreign, I guess, no, yeah, it's not, I guess, foreign, anyone who looked like Pakistani, Arabian, how have you, they were the ones that, to what I'm aware of, they were the ones that were kind of having like this sort of negative backlash because, oh, look at you, you're terrorists, you guys are the ones that attacked us, and it's your fault that we are in this sort of situation. So I know in a negative way, a lot of American people looked at this sort of specific group in a horrible way, that they're like, it's because of you, what are you doing here, you should go back to your country, and stuff like that. Now, I know, Farah, you've been asking about the border. I mean, I don't live closer to the Canada border, I live in the Mexican border. I don't have an answer for the Canadian border. I didn't really realize that it was kind of open in a sense like that. Down here, it's open but somewhat closed at the same time. But we have our own issues down here. And the terrorist thing, I think the only pro that I see to this is just the fact that we kind of got more aligned with security, if that makes any sense. Because I know for anyone who on boards or gets off board in any type of plane, there has to be this sort of like checkup, like, okay, they have to thoroughly check you out, check your luggage to see there's no sort of drugs, but as well as bombs. I'm aware of that. And as I had mentioned earlier, I know that because of what happened to 9/11, it affected, I think, so many institutions, especially with the banks, because like I said, I've worked in 2 different banks. Well, I'm currently working in one right now, but I know for the time that I have gone through those probation periods, it would be kind of like taught to us, or they would have it in a booklet, like, okay, because of 9/11, we have to have a serious protocols, we have to have this sort of training, if in case someone with the bomb were to come inside the bank, this is what to do. Because of this, now we're able to distinguish and analyze certain things with finances and whatnot. What else? Personally, I think after 9/11, both of my brothers decided to serve, because my father was a veteran. He served in Vietnam. And so he kind of pushed that idea onto his sons, and they both went into it. However, one of my brothers had died in training. So I think at that time there was this sort of thing that, like, if how did it go exactly? Like, 2 or more brothers can serve. However, if there's 2 and one passes away, the other gets, like, right away, like, they cannot serve anymore, because it's supposed, from what I remember, or what was taught to me, it was to help preserve, like, that family name, something of the sort. And yeah, I think, I don't want to sound so bland or dry about this sort of discussion, but it like, for me, I had questions that no one could answer. And to this very day, I still have questions about what happened in 9/11. Why did it happen? And what could have been done to prevent it? If did anyone see this coming? Did anyone try to stop them? Because these were guys that were just flying about in these planes, like, for literally anyone can see. And did no one suspect that these guys were looking shady that sort of day, and that they were just, like, heading straight into the buildings? Why did they risk their own lives doing what they did? Well, what was it? What was the purpose of it? And so that's all I have to say so far on this discussion. Like I said, I'm sorry that it's a little bland and dry, but that's me. I'm more confused about this whole situation.
No, your words aren't bland and dry. Your words are your words, and they will always be your words. They're unique. So thank you for sharing what you feel. That's what the purpose of this is. Stacy, tell me, and well, tell everyone, how did it impact you moving forward, and what do you think? How did it impact the country and even other countries that look at us now?
So first off, Vicki, thank your family for their service. When one goes to the military, the family serves along with them. So I humbly thank all service people because I get to live the life that I live because of their sacrifice, because of their courage. In saying that, we had a military presence that showed up literally September 12th to our county building. And you could not come in or out unless they checked your credentials. And if there was even a question about who you were and what you were doing there, they had to contact your direct supervisor. And if your direct supervisor didn't answer, you didn't go in the building that day. I also remember friends of mine that practiced the Muslim beliefs, and they were not allowed to bring their prayer mats in. They were not. They were not allowed to wear their. I'm probably going to say this wrong. Their headdress is the. Anyway, yeah. So some would have. Some had to quit their jobs because. Thank you, Scott. Um, because they could not. Um, they would not. They refused, and by all rights they should. Travel was never the same. I remember flying all around, and you showed up at the airport. You tossed your bag. You got on, and you were set. Everything was fine. To a world where you can't even take a tiny bottle of shampoo because it could be a explosive device. Um, I, on more than one occasion, because I'm a type 1 diabetic, I've had my bags and my person like tossed, um, like so invasive because of this. And then to have our world, our country stand up and say, oh, we hate these people. These people are terrible. We hate them. And it wasn't even the right people. They hated a complete ethnic group. And it unfortunately, I think even by then, I was I was a skeptic. I was definitely not a Bush supporter. And exactly, that's what I think happened is Bush came on and he instilled fear into everybody that they're coming for us, they're coming for our country, and we're going to go over there, we're going to show them why we're a superpower. And, you know, war to solve a great injustice, such as when we went over to stop the Holocaust. When we fought for that, that was a different story than this. And then to find out that Bush had so many holdings over there. Absolutely infuriating.
And let me just piggyback off you a little bit, Stacy. You said something about just how things have changed when, things used to be easy. And then Scott said fear. And let me tell you, it's sometimes I want to just shake some of us Americans that are so easy to believe what the government and the media put out. Here's COVID. It's bad. Take this vax. Here, no, it works. Trust us. Here's 9/11. These are the people that did it. Nope, we're going to have a 20-year war and you're going to spend all the money doing it. Just believe us. Russia's invading Ukraine. We're taking money and giving it to Ukraine. But they don't say that we're also giving money to Russia to help fund the back and forth that they're doing. But it just sometimes I want to shake Americans because I'm like, why do you believe the first thing that you see from the government? Because all the media is owned by the government, CNN, MSNBC, etc. The government gives them a press release to say on the air. And if you haven't watched a compilation on YouTube, which is very easy to find, where all these different news channels, they'll say the same thing. When they're doing their 11 a.m. broadcast or their 6 p.m. broadcast, they all say the same thing. They'll say the word insurrection. So when you look at every news and you just flip, it'll be, the insurrection of the Capitol. They use the same wording because they know, well, if someone's not watching CNN, someone's watching MSNBC, someone's going to watch CNBC. And it's like we have to stop watching the news just in general. Because if there is any one person out there, and even Fox, I'm not saying that I'm for, now I'll be honest, I love Tucker Carlson because he says it like it is. I don't want to say I'm Democrat or Republican. I'm more of the type of person where you tell me what you're going to do. If it sounds better than this guy, I'm going to vote for you. But I think our whole government, I think Republicans are just like Democrats. They're not working together. Everybody is out for themselves. I mean, if you go back to, when we came over here and took land from people and then sell it to someone else, well, it wasn't our land to take in the damn first place. We are just someone that always think America's like, we're this and we're that and we're all that. We're going to make rules for every country. And you got to, who are we? We are people that are leaving our own brothers and sisters on the streets, and we're passing them every single day. We are standing by as BLM protesters will fight for what they want. But where's our brothers and sisters, you and I and everybody else, patriot wise? Where are we going to peacefully protest and get our words out? So I think the whole nation has become divided. I don't think, yes, I believe what Scott said, we came together for that short period of time. We were so gung ho, American flags, bumper stickers, all that. But it's not as much out there anymore because there's nothing patriotic about America that much anymore because people are letting things divide us too much. But that's what I have to say about it. That's what I think the impact was. I think it changed the way that your neighbors look at each other. I think we've gotten too pointy with, what you look like, not who you are inside. I think that other countries look at us like we are just crazy people, like our agendas, our priorities are all screwed up. I mean, if you watch Sky Australia news, go take a watch at them because they just sit there and rip on America like no tomorrow. Our president falling down, are people, yelling on the streets and the crime in Chicago and people killing people and wanting to ban guns. I mean, we just look, I think, the worst than we ever have. I'm still American. I love America, what the America that I grew up in, not now. But let's end with everybody else. Please tell me what you think of America today.
We are officially screwed.
Okay. I agree with you. Scott, what do you think?
Well, I think we've lost our way. A lot of it is, most of it is greed. Everything comes down to about money, and I hate seeing that. I don't know. We need to get back on track. We've never been more divided than we've ever been. The country is, like you said, is completely divided. I don't care what side you're on. There's no middle ground anymore for anybody. So I don't know.
Well, I agree. You're right. There is no side, because if you hear the Republicans, there's some Republicans that are saying that they want to keep funding the war in Ukraine. But again, like I said, you drive down LA and there's 50 blocks of homeless shelters on the streets with drug addicts laying all over the place. In Kensington, Philadelphia, it's never looked the worst that it looks right now. And I mean, you're giving trillions of dollars to a war overseas. Do you know what that trillions of dollars could do to homeless people to get them off the street?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we put a lot of money a lot of places where it doesn't need to go. Even like with COVID, so much of that money that went out that was supposed to help the little guys never made it to the little guys. That all went to big corporations that sucked it up, and then other people stole what was left. So, I mean, I think a lot of people have good intentions, but there's a bunch at the top that are so greedy and I don't care what side you're talking about. It's not one side or the other. It's both. You can be right wing, you can be left wing, you can be the whole goddamn chicken. It don't matter. It's all of it. The government is very, very corrupt, and it's just about all the special interest groups that get in there, and they're in whoever's pocket trying to get what they want. And that's where we're at. That's what needs to be taken care of. We need all these special interests out of our government, and we need to come back together again. There's no middle of the road anymore, and there used to be. People would work across the aisle to help the other side or to get something that worked for the people, and it's not about that anymore.
Oh, and you see like old ladies getting mugged at the gas station. You see, the crime, like I said, has just gone astronomical. We're just killing each other. It's just amazing the country that I grew up in the 80s and 90s compared to today. It's not simple. It's not family. We lost family in the household. We lost religion in the household. We lost the roles of the mother and father. It's like, women want to be this independent and, talk about they don't need men and toxic masculinity and everything like that. So everybody's just divided, and it's not one side. It's just like you said, there's no Democrat. It's not Republicans. It's just greed. But Kevin and Amanda, what are your last final words about this subject?
I'll let Kevin go first.
I was gonna be a gentleman and let you go first, but I think we need to stop playing world police. I was like Scott was saying earlier, we need to stop protecting foreign interests and worry about what's here. America first that's what I've always believed in myself. I do think it was an inside job. I do think these guys were crisis actors, and those are my thoughts, and I don't expect anybody to share those thoughts. Nor do I expect anybody to believe in half of the things that I think. but I do think, like you all are saying, we're too divided, and we are highlighting our differences more than anything. Everybody's looking for what makes me different than everybody else. What can I perpetuate myself as to be different and stand out, when I think that the path for us to come together is to celebrate our similarities, because there are so many there's so many life experiences that we have all had that are fairly similar, and I think that's a path to help bring us together. And people need to stop looking to the government for help, because it's not coming. They've lied to us so many times. In the 80s, they were like, oh, we're not using mind control drugs. And then 1994, they're like, oh, yeah, we're using mind control drugs. Sorry about that. And it's eventually, maybe I'll be old and decrepit walking around with a cane. Maybe I won't be able to walk at all. And it'll come out on the news if there is much of a country. By the time I'm that age, and they'll come out on the news and they'll be like, hey, 9/11 was an inside job, by the way. Bush is really a Democrat. He is a Clinton. Obama is a Bush. He's related to the Bushes. They're all family. That's all George Bush. It's all Bush death cult. And that's where I stand on that.
I love it, Kevin. Thank you for your true words. Amanda, before you go, I don't want Vicky to lose her thought. She said she wanted to add something to that earlier. So Vicky, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So thank you for that. I said what I said earlier, not really so much as a joke or some sort of as a sarcastic comment. My perspective is that I think in some way what happened is that traditionalists, or the idea of tradition, is just dying out so rapidly the more we get into like the 2000s, because I kind of noticed this whole thing, like people in the 1900s, no matter what decade you had placed them in, you want to place your story on 90s and beyond, people were very faithful, or unify themselves with God. Whether I I don't want to say like, oh, that's more a conservative idea. No, I've met both Republicans and Democrats where they both have that same value and principle. And the main thing was God. I mean, if you look at the media right now, or I guess like down the street, wherever you live, people are all about putting like these whole upside down symbols of the cross, the upside down symbol of the Pentagon, or, that star. And, people are just like, yeah, I worship the devil and I'm all about the devil. They make these things as a, like, I don't even know if they're doing it as a mockery, or the sort of thing to like, oh, look at me, I'm more scarier because I praise the devil. Yeah. What happened along the way with both the education and parents, or, you know what, let me add the church as well. What happened with those three groups and wanting to add those core principles of like a good philosophy in life, to like respect others, respect their differences, and have family time. Division is never good. Division is not good. And, unity is best, but it's not just within yourselves. It's not just all about material. It's spiritual. I want to say it's spiritual in a sense of like the craziness, what's going on right now. Because let's say from 2010 and beyond that, no, before that, people were very religious, no matter if it was Catholic or Christianity. Now, getting from, let's say, 2019, I guess that COVID year, to now, or when Biden came into presidency, all of a sudden, God is out the window. Jesus Christ was is a man that people say, well, he's just a man. He wasn't never anybody actually that special. It's just the church who wants to put him on a pedestal. The devil is the one who's real, because look at the shit world that we're going through right now. Yeah, because you kind of put it there, you know? That's what I wanted to say. That's why I said what I said. Not so much because I was trying to make a joke out of it, but it's just because, like, America kind of lost its value on, or its love for God, in order to create a social order, not just only in the family dynamic, but also outside of it.
Vicky, oh my God, you have said everything that I have thought the past few years. So thank you for bringing that up. I hail you. Amanda, finish us off, girl.
Oh, mine's going to be a pretty anticlimactic ending, but
Oh
I
gosh,
have
don't worry about that.
I just have a perspective of like this being just bigger. Like, I understand on a patriotism level, like the issues within our country should come as a priority because this is the land that we inhabit and we live here, etc. However, I don't think that there's ever going to be a way that we can say definitively that we can cure terrorism, or that we can cure greed in America, or cure the homeless crisis, because I think that it's not a Democrat Republican problem. It's like a human problem. Like, humans, we're just innately built that we're always going to want better for ourselves. Like, greed and power for, like hunger for power and hunger for money, it runs so rampant among humans innately, like not necessarily us in this chat, but just as a species, that I think there is not going to be a fix for the end of violence. And the only way that we can redeem ourselves as a species, not as Americans, but as a human race, would sadly be to take what everybody would think would be 10 steps back and go back to a time when we're living in harmony with nature and we're living with a resource-based economy. I'm growing carrots and trading for your cucumbers and trading for Matt's wheat and trading for Scott's, whatever. It's just, I think that's the only way out of this, just because we're always going to have hatred, murder, crime. There's always going to be humans who want more for themselves than they want for their neighbors. And that's not something we can eliminate. I mean, if we're going to go around killing people that think that way, we're going to eliminate 99% of the human race, like, real quick. So I just think that it's as productive as it is to kind of brainstorm ways to be more compassionate to one another, and to be like, I'm definitely not advocating against being more compassionate, like putting together kits for the homeless or helping donate to charities that actually put the money where it needs to go. I'm not saying not to do that. I'm just saying that these are band-aids for a problem that we're never going to be able to fix because we're so obsessed with just power and money as a species.
And I agree with you because, like I said, when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, now I think that, first of all, having the internet, that started it. Right there, morals and values out the window. I do think that the past 20, 25 years has been gone to shit slowly but surely, but it's sped up in the most recent years. And I mean, that's why I had gotten chickens. That's why I planted a garden. That's why I bought books on foraging. And I had wanted to move out to the country because I didn't feel safe anymore living around a city where victims or where the criminals are being treated as victims, and the people that are trying to defend their home, their items, their property, are considered, they're going to be the ones thrown in jail because, Joe Schmo had a bad life, and he has a record 30 pages long, but he's a victim. And I just think, I wanted to go back to doing my own like growing my own vegetables, my own fruit. Like I said, foraging. I got chickens to have my own eggs. And I think going back to not primitive times, but I think going back 20, 25 years without internet, without social media, when, like you said, and I agree 100%, Amanda, it's us as humans. We don't like anyone else to be better than us. And if we do, we try to cut that down. You just see it so much. There's so many women these days that are putting themselves on OnlyFans. And then when they get interviewed on podcasts, they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to be fine for 20 years and I'm going to make millions of dollars and I'm going to have a guy pay for everything for me. So, everybody's losing their morals and values slowly but surely. It's just crumbling. Humans are crumbling. And I think having religion back in the home, a family back in the home, not, yes, women can work, yes, men can work. We can do this all together, but yeah, we don't like seeing anyone prosper but us. It's always what, I'll lend you money, but what is it going to benefit me to do that? So, I mean, I've gone on Nextdoor and I put up every year for Christmas, I post something and say, if you have children, give me your email addresses. I'm going to draw one family every year. And I go and I buy gifts. I buy a tree for the couple. And I don't do it to get anything back. I do it because, like everyone, a lot of people know, I almost lost my life 3 times. So I'm trying to give back and be better. And I think that everybody needs to do that. You need to stop asking, what is it going to benefit you to help my neighbor across the street? It's, how's it going to help them? And if we do that, much, much better, better life, better communities, better neighborhoods, better schools. And that's what I have to say. Anyone else have any last minute thoughts before we call this a night? Awesome. Well, everyone that had joined for this, guest and fellow co-host, I certainly appreciate you giving us your time. I know it's very valuable. You're all busy. You all have jobs and families and work. So thank you so much. This was a very special episode that I'm glad that we did. And other than that, I wish you all a wonderful evening. Make sure you say your prayers for your own family, for the victims and families out there of this tragic day. And other than that, until next time, cabin crew.
Night, y'all.
As above, so below, my brothers and sisters.
Thank you, Farah.